Welcome to the Arizona Bar Foundation CLE, How to Meet Ethic Rules 6.1, Real Examples in Best, All right, welcome to the Arizona Bar Foundation CLE, How to Meet Ethic Rules 6.1, Real Examples and Best Practices for Meeting Pro Bono Aspirations. My name is Damon Ashcraft. I'm president of the Arizona Foundation and partner at Snell and Wilmer. First, I would like to congratulate our 2021 award winners, Tim Igo, the City of Phoenix, Dan Barr, Nancy Anger, and retired judge, the Honorable Maurice Portley. As you will hear in this presentation, their efforts provide the best examples of how to meet the aspirational goals of Rule 6.1. Their impact on our profession, on our community, and towards social justice has been outstanding. With their work as an example, this promises to be an excellent CLE, not only with beneficial information for all of you, the participants, but for our community. As you follow the exceptional examples presented, I am grateful you are here and honored to introduce our panel. Providing an overview of the Mark Santana Law-Related Education Award, our 2021 honoree, Tim Igo. Most of you know Tim, as since 2000, he has been the editor of Arizona Attorney Magazine, the award-winning monthly publication of the State Bar of Arizona. Previously, he edited and wrote at a variety of publications, including the California periodical Orange County Business Journal. He has undergraduate and graduate degrees in English. He earned his law degree at the University of California Hastings College of Law and practiced law in California. Tim is an active leader in national organizations, including the National Association of Bar Executives and the Society for Professional Journalists. Tim has also been recognized multiple times with reporting fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation and the John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York. However, Tim is most proud to be a dad to daughters Willa and Thea and husband to ASU professor and owner of the original Baseline Flower Shop, Kathy Nakagawa. Daniel Barr is the 2021 Foundation for Justice awardee. This award recognizes service providers who have devoted expertise and time to changing the justice system to promote access and opportunity for those most vulnerable. Dan will be explaining how his work and the work of his firm have helped create sustainable programs in our justice system. Dan is a partner with Perkins Coie. He has more than 35 years of experience in civil litigation involving constitutional, employment, media, and political law issues. He represents several news media organizations, including the First Amendment Coalition of Arizona, and is the former chair of the Perkins Coie Phoenix office's Pro Bono Committee. He has been recognized for his legal work by many organizations and groups, and his work as a Perkins Coie Pro Bono Committee chair has led to the firm winning numerous awards as well. We have highlighted a small portion of those awards in the materials. Before becoming an attorney, Mr. Barr was a reporter for the Arizona Republic in the early 80s. Crystal Ahart will be discussing the William E. Morris Pro Bono Service Award, explaining its impact in the work of the 2021 honoree, Nancy Anger. Crystal Ahart is a partner at Kahn and Ahart Bankruptcy Legal Center and focuses her practice on assisting individuals and businesses through the bankruptcy process. Crystal devotes a substantial amount of time serving the underserved. She works closely with Community Legal Services Volunteer Lawyers Program on the Friend of the Court Reaffirmation Program, is chair of the DLP's Advisory Committee, is past president of the Young Lawyers Division Board of Maricopa County Bar, and currently serves as co-executive director of the Arizona Consumer Bankruptcy Council. In 2014, she was the first recipient of the Honorable Sarah Scherer Curley Self-Help Volunteer Award in recognition of her commitment to the success of the Bankruptcy Court's Self-Help Center. We will then be closing this session with a discussion of the Walter E. Craig Award, designated to an attorney who has manifested adherence to the highest principles and tradition of the legal profession in service to the public in the community in which he or she lives, by our 2021 honoree, the Honorable Maurice Portley. I am sure Judge Portley doesn't really need an introduction, but since his retirement from the bench in 2016, He has served as the Senior Director of the Casey Family Program's Judicial and National Engagement Team. He spent 25 years on the bench, the first 12 on the Maricopa County Superior Court, including a term as a presiding judge of the Juvenile Court and 13 on the Arizona Court of Appeals. In the start of his career, he participated in the second year of the Child Advocacy Clinic led by Professor Don Duquette at the University of Michigan Law School in 1978, and was an Army lawyer assigned to the Family Advocacy Case Management Team representing the officer and staff judge advocate in Fort Huachuca, and participated in investigating with CPS issues of child abuse or domestic violence on the post. He is a former board member of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges and is currently the editor in Council's Journal. He also served as an Army JAG, was a partner at Jennings, Strauss & Salmon, and was the first military judge of the Arizona National Guard. With this presentation is pre-recorded, the presenters have agreed to be online at the State Bar Convention presentation to answer your questions posted via the chat function. So please, feel free to message any questions or comments to them. I am pleased to go ahead and to discuss our first award. The first award is the John Bauma Philanthropy Award that was established by the foundation after John's death in 2019 so that we can honor his lifelong commitment to supporting legal services. Being able to present today is a special honor for me as a Snell and Wilmer partner and former partner of John's. I saw firsthand John's efforts and the impact he made on the community. He learned of the need, he stepped up, and he encouraged others to join him. Rule 6.1 states, the efforts of an individual lawyers are not enough to meet the needs of the poor. The profession and government have instituted programs to provide direct delivery of legal services to the poor. The direct support of such programs is an alternative expression of support to provide the law in the public interest, and a lawyer is encouraged to provide financial support for organizations that provide legal services to persons of limited means, or to the Arizona Foundation for Legal Services and Education for direct delivery of legal services to the poor. The need for legal services in Arizona is great. The 2019 census, pre-pandemic, keep in mind, statistics reported that 13.5% of Arizonans live at or below the federal poverty level. That is over 980,000 of our neighbors, our fellow Arizonans. To better demonstrate, using 2020 numbers, a single person making $15,950 or a family of four making $32,750 annually. Who are these folks? People that help us every day. Grocery workers, Uber drivers, barbers, beauticians, teachers, waiters. The list goes on and on. These people, when they need legal help, cannot afford to pay for that expense. That's when they turn to legal aid. But with the current financial resources available, legal aid cannot meet them all. Arizonans, civil legal agencies, community legal services, DNA People's Legal Services, in Southern Arizona, legal aid are doing amazing work with the limited resources they have. The most recently compiled available data shows that in 2019, they assisted over 24,000 Arizonans, including 5,500 of our senior citizens, over 1,200 veterans, over 5,600 domestic violence victims. With only 74 attorneys, they closed over 10,000 cases that year. That's an amazing record. In 2020, with the pandemic, the need for legal help greatly increased. Even before the pandemic, Arizona was facing an eviction crisis. In Maricopa County alone, there were nearly 70,000 evictions filed in 2019. And although there were state and federal eviction moratoriums in place in 2020, Maricopa County saw over 58,600 evictions filed. The city of Phoenix understood that many in the community lost their jobs and were in danger of losing their housing. They learned of the need and they stepped up. That is why they are being recognized with this year's John Bauma Philanthropy Award. The city of Phoenix supported community services with almost $300,000 of CARES Act funding to assist tenants through legal representation, advice, and education. With this support, community legal services assisted in approximately 350 cases, helping 650 individuals. Plus, there was many more individuals helped with the legal information and education. The city of Phoenix saw the impact in 2020, foresaw the ongoing help, and stepped up again in 2021 with $465,000 for community legal services to continue helping clients. Looking at this example, it's easy to understand why 6.1d stresses the importance of supporting legal assistance. The court recognized the cost-effective impact legal services has for an individual and a community. We at the foundation are grateful for the tremendous support shown by the city of Phoenix. We want you to know, though, that you don't need $300,000 to make a difference. The eviction cases averaged under $1,000. Each person was helped for under $500. Any amount you can give to support legal services for people in crisis and will help you meet the goal of Rule 6.1. Thank you for your attention. And let's next hear from Tim Igo, who will speak to Section 8.2 as it pertains to law-related education. Tim, will you tell us about your work and the importance of LRE to our youth?
Thank you so much, Damon. I appreciate that. And also thank you to the foundation and congratulations to my fellow honorees today. It is a privilege to be with you. Now, this is a unique opportunity. You get an award, but you have to attend a CLE. So it's like an odd take on the pleasure of pain principle. So well done there. But how do I love this honor? As the poet said, let me count the ways. If decades of magazine experience have taught me anything, it's that we're all attracted to numbered lists. So although you may be expecting sound and sober advice from me, I offer instead 3 reasons a foundation award is a remarkable, life-changing experience. And because subtitles are reader hooks too, I'll end with how your contribution makes a difference. Now, learning that I was receiving this honor was a trip in itself. I got an email, but it took a few reads for me to truly understand it. We all get too many emails, and COVID has made that worse. And when you're a publication open to all comers, it can become an avalanche. If you've heard from a Nigerian prince who needs help, we've heard from a dozen. But after reading it, I realized, and it hit me, the Barr Foundation, a shockingly talented group of professionals, was telling me that by their standard, which is the highest standard, I was appreciated by them. Put another way, an organization I cherish was welcoming me into a cohort of fortunate people. And so I've already shared my first reason. A foundation award is the bee's knees. Foundation people are the best people. They are smart, passionate, and compassionate. In the never-ending collision of ideas that is our republic, they are the first on the scene and the last to leave. And the work that they do is incredibly important. Now, younger attendees may be unaware that back in the day, this country experienced a constitutional crisis once a decade or maybe twice in a generation. Today, of course, such things may happen multiple times a week. In a time when our laboratory of democracy is awash with toxic chemicals and nefarious pseudoscientists, the foundation's work is vital. When our institutions face challenges from within and without, law-related education and understanding our rights and responsibilities is an existential need. Do you like our constitutional republic? Well, if so, then thank our founding mothers and fathers. The funny thing about this picture is apparently the founding mothers weren't available at the time. It was a scheduling problem. I'm sure it was just something like that. Anyway, so thank them, but also thank the foundation staff who routinely turn history into an instruction manual for democracy. So I thank the foundation for this award and for doing what my professional responsibility professor probably never succeeded in doing, which is to get me to actually read the ethical rules. Well, at least my portion today, Rule 6.1A2. There's some good stuff in there. I mean, who knew? Which brings me to reason 2, why a foundation award is a remarkable life-changing experience. So, like many of you, I've spent many years marveling at the talented lawyers who receive the foundation awards. They are amazing people. The award I'm receiving today has gone to Supreme Court justices, for gosh sakes. Now, the award's value, much like Dogecoin, may take a dive after today. and those justices should have a stern talk with their talent agents. But I suspect my joyful surprise at receiving the award may be shared by many recipients, mostly because we believe that we are certainly too young to be honored in such a way. I mean, how could we be receiving a Chapter 2 award when we're so clearly still in our robust Chapter 1? Am I right, Dan? I'm right, aren't I? Anyway, as the saying says, denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Among those amazing people I admire was Judge Mark Santana himself. I had only been in my magazine editor gig for a few years when Judge Santana died at age 54. But he was such an impressive and generous person that I'd come to know him in that time. His death was a blow, and I recall his funeral service with lingering sadness. But his impact was real, and we all advance that impact every time we do the work he loved. Anyway, being part of a cohort of esteemed honorees stretching back decades is extremely moving, which will make it much harder for Chief Justice Birch when I hit her up to share her Netflix password. So it's coming, Justice Birch. Now, she's not only a Mark Santana Award honoree, but she was a great speaker at past We the People competitions. Finally, reason number 3 why a Foundation Award is a remarkable life-changing experience. The kids are amazing, and they will restore your tattered faith in our republic. That sounds like hyperbole, but after 14 years of doing this, I'm still routinely gobsmacked by the smarts and strategic skills of students who compete. Here are a few images you can see of past teams that won. This was an event at ASU West with so many kids come out, and here was a middle school group of participants. They are amazing. And I could say, kids say the darndest things. And they recently explained to me competing ideas about enlarging the House of Representatives, about the struggle of elected officials to act either as a trustee or a delegate to the governed, about the founders' worries about the dangers of factions and the power of social media to amplify factions into a tsunami of danger and disinformation. Precocious, right? Amazing. At their age, I was pranking my Catholic school's nuns by hiding AV equipment in the school bathrooms, but that's another presentation. Now, when I say 10,000, I know you immediately think of alt-rockers, 10,000 maniacs. I mean, how could you not, right? But did you know that almost 10,000 attorneys have volunteered for law-related education programs over the years? That's a lot, but the need continues to be great. It all comes down to, as always, one person deciding to make a difference. All those wonderful programs grind to a halt unless lawyers step up. So I reached out and asked the already overworked foundation staff if they had received any feedback over time from volunteer judges about the impact judging competitions has had on them, and had they. Here are a few of the greatest benefits they saw flowing to them from judging the foundation's competitions. I won't read them, but you can see here, seeing the future will be in good hands. That's absolutely true. Seeing smart young people think on their feet and argue difficult issues. This is one of my favorites. A mock trial judge pointed out that his greatest benefit was the excitement of seeing high school students already qualify for trial practice and then having to test himself on the federal rules of evidence. Seeing the students are prepared and ready to be participants in our democracy. Watching bright, creative kids bravely come forward and do something that we all know as lawyers and other professionals is a very difficult thing to do, and have fun doing it. And finally, and maybe most movingly, it gave me perspective on my own conduct. I'm not crying. You're crying, right? So it's not just me who says these kids are amazing. Arizona fields unbelievably strong teams across all the programs. I've judged We the People state competition many times, and I'm always impressed. In recent years, I've gotten to judge the national We the People competition as well, once in person in DC and this year virtually. And I've got to admit, when I arrived, I felt a little out of my depth. I mean, I've been so routinely impressed by the Arizona school kids that I thought, if all the kids that are coming to DC are this incredible, how am I ever going to distinguish between them and judge them well? But here's what I learned. Different states vary greatly in how they support the program. So the disparity in skill and preparation is sometimes vast. And I'm pleased to say that Arizona's teams are always among the best. For instance, at the National We the People this year, Arizona teams came in 5th and 12th out of 47 teams. So here's a picture of Mountain View High School, and Hamilton High School was the other one that ranked so highly nationwide. Incredible. That's all thanks to committed teachers and to a foundation that supports and nurtures programs that are a point of pride. All those reasons I mentioned before, and mainly number 3, the kids are amazing, are why your contribution makes a difference. And let me be clear about reason 3.5. The difference is in yourself. Sure, the kids appreciate your work and the teachers are grateful for your service, but the truth is this, and I bet Chief Justice Birch and Judge Santana would agree, you will leave those competitions with a spring in your step. Yes, you'll leave exhausted mentally and physically after watching an entire day of competition, but you'll find yourself smiling goofily on the drive home. You'll come away from those competition rooms smarter, more articulate, and more focused on making positive change in your own world. So who taught me that? Arizona's school kids taught me that. In a way, I think I share this award with them, but I think I'll keep it at my house with my other awards if that's okay with everybody. Finally, with my remaining time, if you'll permit me, what we in magazines call a sidebar, I'd like to mention the impact of direct pro bono representation. I don't want to step on Dan Barr's portion that follows, but I do want to echo in advance what he'll say, and to do it by mentioning my own experience and what it meant to me. And by the way, this is not a story I've ever shared before in my years here in Arizona, before I moved from California, but Judge Santana inspires me still. So years ago, before I became a writer and editor, I worked as an attorney in California. And my experience with that state's version of Ethical Rule 6.1A1, providing pro bono services to help secure and protect civil rights and civil liberties, began late in the night on August 2nd, 1995. At that point, I had been admitted to the California Bar for all of 2 years, and I was still pretty green behind the ears. It was almost midnight when the phone rang, remember landlines, and on the other end was a friend and fellow law school graduate, Greg Oste. Now, Greg had been dating a woman named Poppy, who later became his wife. Poppy was Thai American and active in that community in LA. And she had just told Greg about a crisis and an emerging legal need, which led Greg to call me for help. Earlier that day, an apartment complex in the suburb of El Monte had been raided by state and federal authorities. Acting on a tip, they found 72 Thai nationals working in conditions of slavery in a makeshift garment factory. During the raid, the officials managed to let the captors escape, but they took all the enslaved people into custody. They later were able to catch the slaveholders. The apartments had been ringed with barbed wire, and guards armed with guns, knives, and baseball bats patrolled 24 hours a day. Some of the incarcerees had been in the apartments since 1988. Thai community organizers had been invited on the raid to comfort the enslaved people and speak to them in their own language. Officials had promised the leaders that the freed people would be turned over to them so they could be sheltered and cared for. But the moment the raid ended, the enslaved workers were transported to the Immigration and Naturalization Services Detention Center in San Pedro Bay, where they were held captive once again. Customs officials, yes, well, let's go back one slide. I apologize for that. This is a picture of some of the freed workers immediately after the raid, trying to figure out what's next. These are people who have been in apartments for years being required to make clothes. So then they were taken to the INS detention center and they were held captive. Customs officials announced that people would be deported as soon as possible, maybe even the next day. That began a tense week-long standoff with the US government. Now, the community leaders invited Greg and me to the prison on the San Pedro docks that night to see what we could do. The INS wouldn't let us in, of course, but they agreed that community members could talk to the incarcerated people. Those members carried retention agreements. And by dawn, Greg and I represented 72 people facing immediate deportation. 9 days of work by the community and by us led to the incarcerees being released pending other hearings. Here you can see us all at a picnic the day that they were freed. There was still a lot of work ahead, but there I am, and I'm at a back row on the left. It's one of my favorite pictures because there's our wonderful people, but also my hair is so black there. I don't know what happened. I guess time has passed. Anyway, and here we are at a press conference in the next picture, urging the government to treat the women like the crime victims they were and not criminals. So many months more of work helped the women win a civil lawsuit against large retailers that had sold their slave-made goods. Here's a photo of a press conference in front of one of the retailers. Ultimately, they won their right to remain in the US, and many have become US citizens. And all of that came from what may well be the first case of modern day slavery in the United States since the abolishment of slavery. And you can see here some of the stories that followed the women and their families later on. Now, Greg and I will be the first to admit we absolutely were not the best California lawyers who could have helped those immigrants. I'm reminded of that every time I recall us standing in federal court, awaiting an emergency hearing that August in downtown LA. As we flipped through the pages of our nutshell on immigration, because neither of us had taken immigration law in law school. But the important truth was we were the only lawyers present that night and in the weeks to follow. I sometimes gasp when I think how close I came to saying to Greg, sure, I'll help, but let's go tomorrow. For the traumatized Thai immigrants, there was no tomorrow in America. Here are some of them recently with their children who are also US citizens. Every time I think of them, their families, and the beautiful lives they've built in the United States, I count myself lucky to have met them and to have been privileged to have a diploma that let me speak truth to the massive power arrayed against them. Many of you have that same diploma, and I urge you to use it in creative ways. Finally, one other thing, if your idea of giving back is to leave the last blueberry bagel in the break room for someone else, all these words probably will mean very little, though I hope we can agree that blueberry bagels are an abomination. But if you're watching this, I bet you're in that select group of Arizona lawyers who care deeply about their neighbors and want your communities to flourish. If so, give the foundation a call. That's their whole jam. Thank you. And thank you again, Damon, for moderating this important conversation.
Well, thank you, Tim. Dan, you are being honored for your years on creating systematic change in our justice system. Why is this work so important to our state?
Thank you, Damon. And Tim, congratulations on your award, and congratulations to everyone else here on their awards. I feel somewhat of a fraud of getting this award and really being honored for the work of dozens of lawyers at Perkins Coie who have worked on pro bono matters over the years. But with that disclosure, let me talk about my view of pro bono work and Perkins Coie's role in that. First of all, let me talk briefly about our culture, and I'm sure it's the culture of many other firms out there. Firm-wide, for Perkins Coie's 20 offices or so, I think 2 years ago, there was over 60,000 hours of pro bono work, worked on matters across the firm. One of the features that we have at Perkins Coie that facilitates a lot of meaningful pro bono work is that associates get full-time credit for all of their pro bono work. So, you know, if you need to make, say, 1,800 hours a year and you work 200 hours of pro bono, that will be fully credited to that. That encourages associates to do pro bono work. And frankly, for any litigation associate who doesn't do pro bono work, I mean, I think it's sort of crazy because it provides them the opportunity to get into court and to do stand-up work in court that might not be available when paying cases. I have two main goals looking for pro bono work. One was to look for challenging cases seeking systemic change. And some examples over the years, we represented plaintiffs in same-sex marriage case, striking down Arizona's same-sex marriage ban in 1984. And there you see the photo of a bunch of Perkins lawyers with lawyers from Lambda Legal and the named plaintiffs in the Majors versus Horn case. These two women were the first women, Nelda Majors and Karen Bailey, to get a wedding license in Arizona. And the experience in the case really just couldn't be matched. I mean, to strike down the same-sex marriage ban and the public reaction you got to it was simply amazing. To have clients and people I hadn't talked to in 20 years calling me up to congratulate me. And I had the experience, actually the evening after the same-sex marriage ban in Arizona was struck down. I was at my high school, the 40-year, what's the word?
Reunion.
Reunion, yes, sorry. I wish I could say it was late in the day. I was at my high school reunion, and all these women, some of whom I unsuccessfully pursued while in high school, were coming up and hugging me and kissing me and all of that. And I just thought how strange it would have been 40 years earlier to say, someday I'm going to move to Arizona and we're going to strike down the same-sex marriage ban. So, people who love each other can get married. That would have been an incredible thought. But other cases where we pursued systemic change, the recent foster children class action matter. Case a few years ago where here you see we're involved in the prison healthcare case, the Parsons versus Ryan case, where we represented a class of 33,000 Arizona inmates seeking better health care, mental health care, and dental health care. And one of the great benefits of the case is we worked with the top lawyers in their field from the ACLU National Prison Project and the Prison Law Office in Berkeley, California. Included, this is a photo here of various Perkins Coie lawyers and paralegals and legal practice assistants, along with David Fati, who's the executive director of the ACLU National Prison Project, and Don Spector, who's the executive director of the Prison Law Office. Not only does such a case present unique opportunities, but you get to work with the very best lawyers in their field, which is not only a great experience for me personally, but especially for younger lawyers to work with the top lawyers in their field and here in prison rights litigation. We had similar opportunities with Lambda Legal and with the National Center for Lesbian Rights in a case where we moved to strike down Arizona's no promo homo law, it was called, which prohibited teaching in sex ed cases in Arizona public schools any mention that portrayed homosexuality in a positive light. As some of you might remember from 2 years ago, within 10 days after we filed the lawsuit, the legislature repealed the statute. So that was a very pleasing result. But again, these cases where you seek systemic change, you get to partner with some of the great legal service providers in the country, some of which I've mentioned already. We do also a lot of work with children's rights on the foster care project. The Arizona Center for Law and the Public Interest. We've worked a lot with the ACLU of Arizona. And it has been great forming partnerships with these groups, not only to work with the best lawyers, but to try to get their best cases. And with some of these groups, we've succeeded at that. And it's an incredibly rewarding relationship to have. I've worked with Lambda Legal on several of their cases and worked with lawyers who've argued cases in the US Supreme Court and in the circuit courts around the country. And to work with the best of the best is a great benefit. The other goal that I have in pro bono work, firm-wide, is seeking in-court opportunities for young lawyers. And I'll talk about 4 programs right now that anybody can participate in. which I recommend highly. It provides opportunities for younger lawyers, first, second, third year lawyers, to get first chair responsibility in trials. One is in immigration court. We have over the years worked a tremendous amount with the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project. And here's a photo of one such case where here I am with a young lawyer named Kristen Ruiz, who I'll talk about in a moment, who in his first case ever represented an Afghani refugee. And he was able to successfully obtain asylum for the refugee. Kristen is a patent lawyer, and before this case had never done a case in court. I think he'd only been in court once. And right before the hearing started, he leaned over and whispered to me, says, "You know, I've never done this before." And within the next 2 hours, he was able to convince the judge to grant his asylum claim. And the judge afterwards was walking out of the court, and she smiled at us. It was about a week before Christmas, and she said, "What a great way to start the Christmas season." But that was due to Christian's passion in the case. He poured his heart and soul into it, in part because Christian himself is an immigrant. He grew up in Mexico City, eventually immigrated to the United States, was an engineer at MIT, eventually became a patent lawyer. And here he dove into an area completely unfamiliar to him, in immigration court. And now he is a member of the board of directors of the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project. So this was a matter that greatly changed the lives of two people, our client and Christian Ruiz. Another program which I'll tout, and I urge law firms, big and small, to get involved in this, is the U.S. District Court Pro Bono Program. We have taken many cases through this program. There are cases, mostly inmate cases, where an inmate has survived summary judgment on an excessive force claim or some constitutional claim, a claim regarding First Amendment rights to practice religion in the left, excuse me, in the such. But we've had, we've had 24 associates here at Perkins Coie do these cases. And frankly, they're win-wins for everybody. They're wins for the associate to get first chair experience, to do a week-long jury trial in federal court. They're wins for the judges who suddenly have representation. They're wins for the clients. And I have to say, the judges take very seriously their roles, not only as judges in the case, but as educators for the younger lawyers. I'll tell one story of Judge Wake with one of our younger lawyers, where the lawyer was trying to get a document into evidence, and under the business record rule to the hearsay rule. So she laid the foundation, or she thought she laid the sufficient foundation for the document. The government then stood up and objected, and Judge Wake sustained the objection. The young lawyer then said, "Well, I'll just move on." And Judge Wake said, No, why don't you try again and see if you can get it in this time? That sort of experience just simply doesn't happen with older lawyers. And my experience is that the district court here, both in Tucson and Phoenix, is that the judge takes these responsibilities very seriously. They know that the lawyers, a lot of times, that they have never had any trial experience. And it's just a fabulous experience. And in most cases, the judges will come out and talk to the lawyers afterwards, or invite them back into chambers and critique what they did. And it's just a fabulous experience. Similarly, the Ninth Circuit also has a pro bono program. You can sign up and take these cases. A lot of them are immigration cases. And in doing so, these cases, you get guaranteed oral argument. So it's a great opportunity for people in your firm, first, second, third year out of law school, to get experience doing a Ninth Circuit argument. The Arizona Court of Appeals has also a similar program I don't know how extensive it is, but we've participated to some degree over the years in it. And again, it gives you the opportunity for young lawyers to do oral arguments. So, in summary, these cases are incredibly rewarding for the people who participate in them. They're incredibly rewarding for senior lawyers to supervise. And I got to say, the emotional impact that you get from doing pro bono work in these cases cannot be matched in a lot of civil cases. To do something for someone who otherwise, had very little chance in the legal system, is a great reward. And I urge people to take every opportunity in some of these programs that I've mentioned to take those opportunities, and you won't regret. So anyway, thank you very much for this award today. And again, congratulations to everybody else for the fantastic work that we've been doing.
Thank you very much, Dan. I have to say, as a patent and intellectual property attorney myself, I enjoyed hearing about folks in my field getting to go to court. So that's really cool. Crystal, we have covered law-related education, systematic work in philanthropy. As an active pro bono volunteer, will you please share how pro bono helps our society and speak of the work of our Maurice awardee, Nancy Anscher?
Thank you, Damon. My pleasure. And thank you all for joining us to recognize this amazing group of award recipients. And thank you to the Foundation for hosting this very special recognition event. I'm so honored to accept the William E. Morris Pro Bono Service Award on behalf of Nancy Anscher, who's unfortunately unable to be with us today. I get the distinct pleasure of speaking about Nancy's unmatched service to the underserved over the last several years, in accordance with ER 6.1A3, which speaks in terms of providing professional or other law-related services at no fee or at a substantially reduced fee to charitable groups or organizations. As Damon mentioned, I'm currently the chair of the Volunteer Lawyers Program Advisory Committee. The Volunteer Lawyers Program is co-sponsored by Community Legal Services and the Maricopa County Bar Association. Nancy began volunteering with VLP in June of 2017 after her retirement from the Office of the Attorney General's Consumer Division. Over the last several years, Nancy has provided a tremendous amount of pro bono service through VLP. In 2019 alone, Nancy impacted at least 88 families with low incomes. Nancy is well respected for her legal expertise in consumer matters, her interviewing and negotiating skills, and her truly outstanding commitment to pro bono service. Initially, Nancy served as attorney of the day, but VLP staff will tell you that her service very often continues well beyond that initial day. Before the pandemic, Nancy could be found at the VLP office nearly every single week, interviewing, advising, and assisting clients. VLP interviews are typically limited to 60 minutes due to the overwhelming number of people needing help. However, Nancy is quickly able to establish rapport and gain the trust of the clients, which helps her to gather the information needed about the issue at hand in a very efficient and effective manner. Nancy is well known for her excellent interviewing and fact-gathering skills. Nancy's kind and caring nature helps clients feel comfortable and at ease during the interviews. They often remark to VLP staff after their interview about Nancy's kindness and also her very keen listening skills. As I'm sure we've all experienced in our own practices, helping clients feel heard is a very important job and one which is often not easy. Even with clients who have disabilities or are very troubled, Nancy is extremely patient and reassuring. Sometimes Nancy has to explain to VLP clients that she interviews that they may not have a legal remedy. She's able to do this in such a caring and respectful manner that even these clients leave feeling understood and respected, and they appreciate the fact that Nancy has thoroughly evaluated and addressed their concerns. Other times, Nancy's able to advise people about steps that they can take themselves to help resolve their legal issues, and potentially even prevent future ones. When appropriate, Nancy helps people understand what caused or aggravated their situation and gently recommends more effective ways to handle similar situations going forward. Nancy is highly valued for her knowledge and her ability to spot and analyze legal issues. When an assessment is needed for complex issues, VLP staff knows that they can rely on Nancy to gather all of the pertinent facts and information, and she's often VLP's very first choice as interviewer for these complex matters. This fact gathering is really critical to VLP's ability to thoroughly evaluate a case for referral to a pro bono attorney. When a client needs extensive representation, Nancy's evaluations help the program get a thorough understanding of the issues, which makes it much more likely that a volunteer attorney will agree to accept the case and provide pro bono representation to the client. She's an effective advocate within the program in assisting clients get the additional help when they need it. Nancy carefully explains and models how to communicate calmly but assertively with opposing parties. She often calls the opposing parties right there on the spot to speak with them along with the client. She's known to communicate in a very persuasive manner while advocating for a fair resolution that benefits the VLP client. When needed, Nancy provides clear instructions about completing forms and preparing documents, and also how to best present issues. Nancy strives to ensure client issues are resolved, even if that means additional follow-up. She often provides ongoing assistance to clients and/or VLP staff, even after her attorney of the day duties are over. She follows up with clients to ask about their progress and often offers more help to those individuals. She's even been known to help some clients for months following that initial interview. Nancy has become a valued and trusted colleague of the staff at Community Legal Services and the Volunteer Lawyers Program and other volunteer lawyers. She's always willing to consult and discuss consumer issues, and her insights are always helpful. VLP staff describe Nancy as, quote, always going the extra mile. And I collected a couple of quotes from VLP staff that I wanted to share with you today about Nancy from those who know best. Bradley Gelder, who is the senior consumer staff attorney at Community Legal Services, advises that, quote, Nancy has demonstrated the most commitment to public service that he's seen among attorneys who have retired from the practice of law. Similarly, Ronnie Tropper, who's a VLP staff attorney and coordinator of the Children's Law Center, advises that, quote, Nancy always does everything she can to help a person. Even if the VLP client might not have a strong legal claim, Nancy usually can find a way to advocate to help make the person's life better. She is beyond compassionate and just an all-around lovely human, end quote. This year, Nancy was not only received the William E. Morris Pro Bono Service Award, but was also listed as one of the top 50 pro bono awardees. The foundation reports that it has never had a Morris awardee also be in the top 50. It's such an honor and a distinction for her. In Nancy's case, the consensus was that she truly deserved both this year, and that's why she was awarded them. Nancy is a pillar of the legal community, and VLP is so lucky to have her. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Judge Portley, will you please discuss the Walter E. Craig Award and share your thoughts on what it means to live with the highest principles and tradition of the legal profession with service to the public?
Thank you very much. I am honored to have received this award, and I have to thank the Arizona Bar Foundation and its board, Larry Winthrop and Diane Johnson, colleagues and friends who nominated me, and all the fellow awardees. It's an honor to hear about their actions, their continued work in the community. And it reminds me that when I was younger and was in the Army, I would drive from Fort Huachuca to St. David to be a mentor to help the St. David moot court trial. Now that was about an hour and 15 minutes long, but the kids enjoyed it and they were successful in their efforts in Cochise County and then moving forward to the state. And while I never did any federal work, I do know that volunteering as a lawyer in a firm is appreciated, but most importantly, and I think I've heard this from both, the clients that you represent say thank you. They reach out, they're appreciative for your time, for your effort. And if, as we hear about Nancy, maybe she can't do everything that they wanted, she helps make their life easier. But truly, I got maybe onto this road in trying to provide services to the public in the community through my work with the juvenile court. When Judge Kim Rose, with his great voice, called and said, "I need to talk to you," I immediately thought I was in trouble. And I was like, uh-oh, the principal is coming. But he had again asked me to move from the criminal court to the juvenile court. And it seemed like it was time and it was appropriate. And the first thing I did was call my law professor, Don Duquette, from the spring of '78 and said, "Don, this is what's happened to me and what do I do?" And he had me call the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, and they've been a great resource. But amongst all of this, the board was always there. The Arizona Bar Foundation was always there as we tried to make a difference for children and families in the community. Back when I was on the court, juvenile delinquency was the high priority. Everyone was afraid in the mid-90s of the super predator coming. Well, everyone got excited. There was no data for that. And of course, it never materialized. But what those people were able to do was to kind of begin to divide our community into us and them. And children, young people, youngsters who get into trouble aren't them. They're all of us. There's no one that I know who hasn't had the opportunity in their lifetime to get into a little trouble and for any number of circumstances avoid becoming a delinquent. And at the time there were even Senator Simpson of Wyoming was a juvenile delinquent. He and his friends used to go and knock mailboxes off their stands, which is a federal offense. And he credited probation staff, even while he was the son of the governor, for getting him on the right track and helping him move forward into his future success. But while we were focusing on that, and we've come to realize that the crack cocaine epidemic didn't lead to crack babies who were going to have some problems, to focusing on the child welfare side of it. Dan mentioned his work in the federal courts with the Center for Public Interest and others on foster care. But children of all ages, babies through 18 years old and really until they're 25, as the US Supreme Court has recognized, will always need our help. And so while I was on the juvenile court, we tried to do that. And there are some things that work and there are some things that are still going on, to include the wonderful Adoption Day. But since last century, when I was in the court, information and science has improved to what we know about children. We now know about trauma. We know about adverse childhood experiences. We know that when children are removed, they have those experiences. And sometimes if they're put into group homes or if they're put into foster homes, they're not all as good as their birth parents, whatever their deficiencies may be. And so it's given me the opportunity through Casey family programs to learn, to grow and develop. And I think my wife is happy because it got me out of the house after I retired in 2016. But currently, Casey is working with the Children's Bureau, with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and with Prevent Child Abuse America on a priority project called Thriving Families, Safer Children, which is to transform the child welfare system. And just think about that. Is this really child welfare? So much as it should be a child and family well-being system. How do we help families? How do we get the system, which is more than just the agency, but communities and nonprofits and schools and others to look at these families and to look at them differently? And so we started with a cohort of 4. Our second cohort has just been added to include Arizona, and it is moving forward. But also with that comes something that was unexpected in 2018 when the Congress passed and the president signed the Family First Prevention Services Act, which essentially changed the focus from merely removing children and putting them in foster care and taking them families, but looking at how do we help families. And so they're taking some of the spending that the federal government does and giving it to prevention services. So if a child may be a candidate for removal, not only the child, but the family can receive services designed to address substance abuse, which is a lot different than we treated people back in the 80s and 90s. Mental health issues, which is sometimes tied to substance abuse, as well as domestic violence, and parenting skills. So I don't know about anyone here, but when our firstborn came around, while it was a blessed and loving event, after my mom left after the first week, we looked at each other and said, uh-oh, we're in trouble now. And our little boy looked at us and gave us that smile, and maybe it was, a burp or he wanted to be fed, but it really looked like, okay, you two, you belong to me and I'm in charge now. And so families need that. And so if you have other family members and neighbors or people from church or, other social supports, that makes a difference. And in fact, one of the things that happening in Arizona and with Casey's help, Prevent Child Abuse Arizona has just created the Lean on Me program, which is designed, for listening, empathy, okay. The next would be the A. Is associating, and the N is non-judgmental, helping families. And the pandemic taught us so much about that, where kids couldn't go to school. And while people were afraid and concerned that teachers didn't have eyes on them, teachers had eyes on them through Zoom and other platforms. And if the children didn't have that, teachers would go to deliver school, stuff and papers and classroom assignments, and they could look in and they could see. And so it wasn't to be a fear of what's happening so much as an opportunity for how we can help. How can we get them Wi-Fi or a tablet? How can we help them get food? How can we help them get clothes? How can we help the family do things? And so it is important. And was surprising that, I enjoyed my time on the criminal bench, and I really enjoyed my time on the civil bench. But when I was on the juvenile court bench, it felt like it was avocational, because it was people. And whether it's people we help through volunteering and pro bono services, or people we help through the child welfare services, making a difference and helping those families stay together and growing and developing, and then getting them to 25 and 30, and you can see their brains fully formed. And they become people you would want to take out and socialize with, and they don't mind being seen with you, is a great example of the work that the Barr Foundation does, that the juvenile court does, that so many nonprofits like Prevent Child Abuse Arizona, or Children's Action Alliance, or Aid to Adoption with Special Kids, those are all organizations who are making a difference in our community. And it's been my pleasure to collaborate with them, to speak to the community, to speak to lawyers, and to find ways to make a difference, because there's nothing better than watching children grow up to be healthy. And everyone who has been a parent is my hero. Charles Barkley once said, I'm not your hero. And in thinking about it, I agreed with him. Parents are heroes. They get the kids up, they get them to school, they feed them, they educate them, they try to make a difference for them, and to get them to a healthy place so they can carry on and be the next generation that, as we've heard, is ready to continue our democracy, continue our state, our communities, our country in a positive and healthy manner. And with that, I have to again thank all my fellow award winners, the Barr Foundation and its board, for this honor, because I'm just an old guy just trying to do something to keep myself busy and trying to make a difference. And it's been my pleasure to do it and to work with everyone who truly makes the difference, all of the people who are in the trenches. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. You have been let me do that. Sorry. Thank you, Judge. You have been an example and inspiration to us all. Your continued great work past your retirement is outstanding. Now, the recording part of our CLE will be ending. So please be sure to submit your questions via the chat for our presenters who are on the line to answer. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.